When I was 18 years old, I walked into my first class with Dr. B. I was a freshman, but it was also my second semester, so I was completely prepared with my topic notebook, multicolored pens, and mechanical pencils just in case we had to do some type of math. Because, you can't use pens for math. I was the type of student that gets to class early just to make sure I could sit in the best possible spot. But Dr. B was not the sort of professor that cared about that. He didn't seem to care about time in general. In fact, he was late to his first class of the semester and most of the classes I had with him thereafter. He had actually just gotten back from trying to create a cure for children with cerebral malaria in sub-Saharan Africa, and he ran into that classroom with those plastic orange desk chairs like a rhino. A rhino with glasses, a wrinkled shirt, and a worn-out cup of coffee. I wrote at the top of my fresh sheet of paper, Physiological Psychology, Spring 2003, Dr. B, and waited to be educated about the brain and all its wondrousness. However, the wrinkled shirt rhino just handed out a bunch of 3x5 cards and said, "Good morning. I want you to take this 3x5 card, write your name on one side, and on the other side, I want you to write your definition of the soul and its function. You have 5 minutes." For a brief moment, I felt absolutely nothing. That's called shock. Then I was frustrated. Then I got completely indignant. How in the world could this man dare ask us such a question on the first day of class? A question that he didn't first give us the answer to. I came here to be taught, so teach me. I now know that the indignation was masked embarrassment, that my desire to be taught the exactly right answers was immaturity and a lack of knowledge. It was a lack of knowledge around the sort of education that actually brings new learning and insight. I wrote something down that I'm sure was very Christian and very wrong at the same time. And I sat with my sad self for the next 40 minutes as syllabi were handed out and introductions were made. For the next several years, I read everything about the soul that I could get my hands on. I talked to people from different faith traditions about their soul, and I have a new 3x5 card. What is the soul? Well, my new 3x5 card says the soul is the essence of our aliveness. The soul is the dimension in us that is inextricably linked to our identity or our sense of self. And our soul is distinct from, yet connected to, all of our other elements of personhood, one's body, mind, heart, and spirit. And here's the kicker. It has a function. Its function is to organize the elements of personhood into wholeness. Dallas Willard said that the most illuminating and rational way of thinking about the soul is to regard it as that component of the total person which coordinates all of the capacities and dimensions of the human being and leads to their interactive development to form an individual life. Traditionally, every dimension of our personhood has a physical space that it sits in our body. Our mind sits up here, right? Our heart sits right here. Our body sits here. And our spirit actually is all around that. Our soul sits right here. It's called your solar plexus. And in other traditions, it's referred to as your center or place of power. It's no wonder that when we eat soul food and listen to soul music, we usually go, right? And the element that has been used to characterize the soul is fire. I love fire as a metaphor for the soul because fire brings 4 factors that are fine on their own, just like your dimensions of personhood, to life in a brand new, very whole way. Fire needs fuel, air, movement, and a spark. So, think of the match as your mind, the air as your spirit, the movement as your body, and the spark as your mind. When you are in a space, right, where each one is present and continues to be worked with, when each thing, each dimension is welcomed, invited, even needed, and you do something like strike, you have to do something to bring them into alignment or wholeness, that is when you experience aliveness. That is when your soul is functioning well. I know to some of you, this might sound a little bit froofy and unscientific, but I only have about 4 minutes left, and I don't have time to go into neuroplasticity and quantum physics and all of the different dimensions that we're not even aware of. So I'm just going to ask you to Google quantum physics formula and look at that. I hope you like it. I don't understand it, but you might like it and think that what I'm saying sounds a little bit more scientific. So we've talked about this is what the soul is, right? The next thing, I'm actually going to go back so you're not distracted by that. The next thing I want to do is talk about spaces where the soul shows up. So if you would, with me, close your eyes. I invite you to close your eyes and take 3 deep cleansing breaths. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And continuing breathing with your eyes closed, I want you to focus your mind on a memory. And I'd like you to remember a time in your life when you felt fully alive. It doesn't have to be a particularly happy time. It just has to be a time where you were experiencing a deep sense of fulfillment. And you knew that you were in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. You all have it? You can open your eyes. It's in moments of aliveness that we experience transcendence, where we exceed the limits of our ordinary experience. The thing is, after intentionally working with my own soul and the souls of others for almost 15 years, which is crazy because I was in class with Dr. Riggs, I've found that most of these soulful moments happen upon us rather than us happening upon them. In the memory that you brought to mind, you probably didn't orchestrate all of the different variables that were needed to make your soul catch fire. It probably happened upon you. And because that's usually how we first experience the soul showing up, we think maybe that that's how it is always supposed to happen. They surprise us rather than us disciplining ourselves, our lives, our relationships, and spaces so that our souls can show up, so that we can experience a full expression of identity and aliveness in a variety of different circumstances. To summarize my calling, I see my job as creating spaces and experiences where people's souls catch fire. I'm not perfect at it, but there are a few things that I know work. And before I tell you what those are, I do need you to know that you will fail many, many times, but you will never regret investing yourself in creating soulful spaces and experiences for yourself and for others. Parker Palmer describes the soul as being very shy. It does not come out and play in spaces that aren't safe. What I have found is that you start by creating and entering safe environments, all right? Things outside yourself. And as humans grow in experiencing wholeness, expression, and soulfulness in a particular environment, they start to believe that maybe it can happen in other environments as well. So the safe environment moves from outside of themselves to something that they can carry within themselves. This is a beautiful experience to witness because when the safe space is you can take it anywhere, right? Yes? Okay. Good, tracking with me, right? Here's what we need to create safe, soulful experiences. They are 5 disciplines or agreements that we need to make. Number 1 is challenge by choice. The soul shows up in environments when it is invited rather than demanded. Challenges, inquiries, and opportunities are offered, but it is the individual's decision whether or not to engage. In soulful spaces, their approval, worthiness, and success are not attached to what they choose because we assume that your wild soul knows what it needs better than we do. The second discipline and agreement is reciprocal hospitality. In soulful spaces, we support each other's journey and learning by giving and receiving hospitality and acknowledgement. This creates a safe and welcoming space wherever we are. This agreement includes a commitment to be concerned for the physical and emotional safety of all individuals within the space. The third discipline is wholehearted commitment. Like children playing in the sand, when you are entering soulful spaces, the participants commit to being all here and all in as their most authentic selves. Soulful spaces are not created with fake people, saboteurs, or imposters because guess what? Souls only reside in real people, not fake ones. Participants are asked to commit to be as fully present as possible with all of their doubts, convictions, beliefs, strengths, limitations, successes, and fears. The fourth discipline and agreement is fierce wonder. Soulful experiences are viewed as laboratories where you can test and try, fail and succeed, but the goal is to learn. With every learning, there is a new mystery that unfolds for us. So we put away our judgments and thoughts of the right way and shift ourselves toward fierce wonder whenever we start to feel frustrated by something or someone else. And the fifth discipline agreement is creating a beautifully gracious space. You can become masterful at the 4 other factors of creating a soulful environment, but if you are unable to meet in a beautiful space, the soul often won't emerge because your mind is too absorbed with what needs to be taken care of. Beautiful grace in a physical space, it includes but is not limited to non-artificial light, fresh flowers or growing plants, comfortable seating, windows at an eye level for visual relief, warm and inviting decor, upholstered or carpeted space so that even soft voices can be heard. With enough room for ease of movement and a schedule that is full of grace, a balance of flexibility and purpose. This is a beautifully gracious space. And not surprisingly, all of these variables can be found in quiet spaces in nature. You might just have to provide your own comfortable seating. Dr. B had asked me a hard question, one that I couldn't answer. But even then, I valued learning more than my pride, more than failure or rejection. So when a research assistant position opened up in Dr. B's office the following year, I was the first person to apply. It didn't matter to me that I had 2 other part-time jobs, a full course load, and a leadership position. I entered data, poured more cups of coffee than I could count, and I learned. I learned about how women that have both breast cancer and hope have a greater chance of recovery than those that don't. I learned that developing practices of gratitude are just as effective in treating depression as Prozac. And when you put gratitude and Prozac together, amazing things can happen. I learned that whether you're a child in a slum in Africa with cerebral malaria or a child in the US at a Miracle Network hospital with cancer, your laughter is the most beautiful and brave thing in the world. Hearing its healers, healing its hearers right down to the deepest part of themselves. And I learned that we do not heal the hurt in the world, eradicate its ugliness, and solve its darkest, most complex problems by making our home in the hurt, the ugly, the dark, and the complex. We do it by making our home in the beautiful and light and excellent and simple. To transcend is to say there's something better, and it's right over here. just beyond what your eyes can see, just beyond what your mind can comprehend, just beyond our heart's current capacity for love, just beyond your spirit's sense of boundary. There is something better. And when you are whole, your soul knows the way there. It is the path to beauty and excellence and light and simplicity. So I urge you to run. Run into those beautiful, excellent, light, simple spaces. Run into as many of them as you can and drag as many people with you as you can. And when you have soaked up as much of it as possible, you carry it with you into the dark and lonely and sick and forgotten and ugly and complex and problematic places in the world, and you pour it all out. And when you see that what you poured out serves a community of people as well as yourself, then you will know what transcendence is. It is a whole, fully alive person with a soul on fire. Thank you.